crazies to the left of me, wimps to the right, how one side lost its mind and the other lost its nerve. And also with us is comedian Patrice O'Neill, who is back on the program here. And welcome both of you to the show. Thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
This got started on a debate that we had the other night on Hannity and Combs. Bernie Goldberg was our guest. And I've known Bernie a long time. He's a #1 best-selling author. And Bernie says it's time to eliminate the N-word. You think we ought to say the word?
Right. I said I'm tired of the baby talk. I've never heard a rap song where the rapper said, I took my bitches and hoes and my N-word pals and went someplace. They never say the N-word. They say the word nigger. And my point was that this is a vile, nasty word. And it has a vile and nasty history. And by sanitizing it, by using this liberal imposed baby talk, the N-word, all we do is perpetuate it so that it goes on and on and on and on. Now look, if you don't think the word's a bad word to use, then I'm not making any sense. But if we agree that this word isn't doing anybody any good, least of all black people, then try my way, because the other way doesn't work. The other way, the N-word is so inoffensive, I mean the term, the N-word, that you could use it in church and you wouldn't offend anybody. But if you say the word nigger, that stings, and it should. It should offend people so that maybe if everybody is using it, only in that sense, by the way, I don't mean to shock people. I don't mean to run around using the word nigger in a bad sense, but to talk about rap songs and things like that. If enough people use it, then hip people aren't going to want to use it anymore.
What do you say, Patrice?
Well, I saw the segment, and here's the thing that the news has to get into in its context, and I think that you have to really ask white people to do something unprecedented, Bernie, is that be honest about race.
Exactly.
And what you're saying, I believe in context, and I've always said it, it's almost like in the Flintstones when they spell, we're going to take Dino to the V-E-T, when you use the N-word. It's condescending, because what it's saying is that, to me, it's saying you're better than me if you can say a word that can hurt my feelings, and if I say crack or white boy or whatever I want to say, and it means nothing to you, then that means that your words are almost have power over me. So but the thing that I have a little problem with is that this is an issue that you're saying to white people, because you can't use your idea when it comes to black people, because we use the phrase in a completely different context than you. So when you're talking to white people, you should be saying to them, let's stop saying N-word, because I agree with you in this terms. It's because the context, like saying the N-word, it's like you're not erasing the sentiment behind the word. So if you give it a new phrase to be able to feel comfortable saying nigger, like saying N-word, which you still want to say the word nigger, you can almost replace it with a long pause, like I don't like you people, and then wait for a second and put nigger where the pause would be now. You understand? So in a way I agree, because I think it's condescending to use the N-word as some type of pacifying thing when you just want to say nigger.
So do you think Bernie's idea then is a good one?
It's a good one in terms of how white people deal with race, but white people are not honest when it comes to race. Sean, you know that. You're a good American.
Yeah.
Sean, two things. First of all, Patrice is absolutely 100% right when he says white people aren't honest about race. I want to get to that in a second, though. I want to make something clear. I don't walk around, and neither do my friends walk around, using that word in the sense that Patrice just used it. So you don't have to worry about us, Patrice, walking around saying that and then substituting, or saying the N-word instead of it. That's not what I'm talking about.
Right.
I'm talking about rappers. That was that context of the discussion. Rappers using that word, and it's okay if rappers use it, but it's not okay if white people use it. I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying, that we're using it in two different senses. But I want
the context, and the thing is, it's a weird thing that it's like middle-aged to old white people discussing this, that black people, of course, where it came from and what it means and how derogatory it is, started from white people using it on black people. But isn't it kind of like black people's business what they do with that word? I mean, maybe I'm crazy. Like, if it doesn't bother certain black people to say it, maybe it's not all white guys. And not,
wait, let me, Patrice, wait a minute. Let me see if I'm interpreting what Bernie's saying here a little bit differently here. He's saying that it is offensive. It's meant to hurt. This is the equivalent of spitting in somebody's face, slapping him in the face, and trying to maximize the amount of hurt you can inflict on an individual. And what Bernie, I think, is saying here is if you sanitize it, it's not going to go away. If you use it and you show people are bigoted that use it and don't talk baby talk, I think what Bernie's saying here is that ultimately it takes the sting and the hurt out of it.
But there are some people in places that will never, ever hear this show that say nigga as a term of love and a greeting. What's up, nigga? And have nothing else behind it but what's up, nigga? Just like, brother, it is what it is.
Right. And Patrice, that's my point. If you think that's okay, and look, you're black, I'm white. If you think that's okay for black people to walk around and say, hey, what's up, nigger? Be my guest. But let me tell you something. It doesn't breed any respect in white people, decent white people, when they hear that stuff. It's part of a bigger piece. And the bigger piece includes shows like this moronic show. You know this guy Flavor Flav and the Flavor of Love?
Yeah.
He dresses up like a pimp. He wears a big clock around his neck. And he has these moronic women, mostly black women, but some white trash women too, vying for his affection. If the Ku Klux Klan wanted to produce a show to make young black people look like fools, that would be the show they would produce. And that's my point.
And you know something, that's the interesting point, but that's the thing. It's like, okay, I think that if you want to sit back as a white guy and go, tisk, these people are just, what are they doing? It's almost a condescending thing to look at that and go, oh, these people, so sad. Because I want to ask you this, it's an anthropology question. Why don't white people have to answer for other white people doing messed up things in this world as an entire group? Like, why don't you guys have to talk about the BTKs of the world? And
that's a fair question. That's not only a fair question, that's a very, very perceptive question. I'm not being condescending when I say that.
Fair enough, go ahead.
I mean, look, I come from the South Bronx. I grew up in a neighborhood with probably as many black people in my neighborhood as the one that you grew up in.
Right before you moved out, like in about 61.
1960, and you couldn't blame anybody because it became a very dangerous place. Hey, black people move out of bad neighborhoods too. You could pull that with some other white guy, but don't pull that stuff with me, my man.
I'm messing with you, buddy. Listen, okay. All I'm saying is why do black people have to always answer
that's a very good question.
To the foolishness of one or two or three?
That's a very good question.
But there's more to that. The use of the term is widespread. And look, Patrice, you and I have gone into this. The word is so offensive to me. I don't know people that use this word, and when people hear it from anybody, they get offended. Patrice, everybody that I know finds that word offensive because they know the history of the word, and that when used by people, that it is designed to hurt.
I think Patrice makes a good point.
Why isn't cracker as offensive to you
as
it should be to me?
Well, you called me that because I know you. You do it in humor, so I take it that way. But the fact is, if it's used in a way that's meant to be derogatory and to hurt, I know the difference.
You think rappers are using it in a derogatory way to hurt?
Yes.
Or that's the language that they're using?
But wait a minute. You refer to women as bees and hoes, and you use the N-word that way. I think it's demeaning and degrading. Yes, I think it's offensive and hurtful.
Patrice is onto something really, really important, and he deserves a little discussion about it because he hit on a real important point. Why is it Why do black people have to answer to rappers running around calling each other nigger, but white people don't have to answer to certain things? That's a fair question, and I think it has something to do with the fact that minorities, anybody who's a smaller number in the population, has that burden in a way that a majority doesn't. That's no justification for it, by the way. But what I'm saying is, if in South Africa, if we lived in South Africa and white people were the minority and white people were not in power but behind the eight ball, and white Jewish people walking around going, "Hey, Jew boy, how you doing? Hey, hey this, hey that," I think then white people would have to explain why they do that, given the history of the words and all, guys, in a way that black people in South Africa wouldn't if they were the majority and in power.
Got to take a quick break. More with Bernie Goldberg coming up. More with Patrice O'Neill coming up. Should we, as Bernie Goldberg says here, should you ban the use of the N-word and use the word as a means of sort of ultimately eliminating it? Bernie joins us. His brand new book is out, Crazies to the Left of Me, Wimps to the Right, How One Side Lost Its Mind and the Other Its Nerve, and also a comedian and commentator, Patrice O'Neill, is with us. Where do you think this all ends? First of all, have you gotten criticism for coming out as you have, Bernie?
No, it's interesting. I think you practically have to say I had sex with Mother Teresa before people get crazy about this, about any subject. No. I mean, we were on a very big show, your show, and I got a few comments saying I think you made a good point, but there was no outrage, and that's okay. Listen, I think Patrice is onto something. I think Patrice is making some real interesting points, and if his point is that, hey, Bernie, that's the white guy's burden, if he feels offended when rappers say nigger. That's your problem, Bernie. I get that. But Patrice, just as you're an expert at being a black guy, I'm an expert at being a white guy. And I lived through the civil rights days, and I hope I did something to contribute up to the good side of that. But when I hear rappers just cavalierly, running around calling women bitches, hoes, and their friends niggers, then maybe that's my burden. Maybe that's the burden on me. But I'm saying, man, don't you guys get it? Don't you guys get how bad that is? And if you're saying, hey, we don't get it, we don't care, then maybe it's up to you.
I'm not going to say that we don't care, Bernie. This is the thing. This is why I say it's an inner problem if it's a problem. But we have to discover that problem and have that growth. We can't. This is where people meet the fight, where it is a white guy, and again, it shouldn't matter, but it is what it is. When it's a white guy explaining to black people, what we're doing to be dysfunctional. And I know it shouldn't matter who it comes from, but it has to come from.
All right, but I've got to run. Let me say this, because we're almost out of time. And by the way, Patrice is going to be, where are you at? The comedy club this weekend.
In New York, man.
All right. You're going to be there Friday and Saturday this week. But I'm just saying, you know what? It's degrading to women. It's degrading to people to refer to them in these terms. And, Patrice, you could help go a long way and sort of lead the effort. Last thought. We only got about 30 seconds.
I want to say that also our culture, black people's subculture is really the only one that's really so out there in society. Because white people have a little insidious subculture, but it's not being met with music and a lot of different things. We're out there in the public, and that's another thing that makes it so prevalent, is because rap is so big.
All right, guys, thanks very much, Patrice O'Neill and Bernie Goldberg. Guys, thanks for being with us.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, appreciate it. 800-941-SEAN is our toll-free telephone number. We'll get to your calls when we get back. We have some of the other news.